Congratulations on the decision you've made to explore business ownership in the state of Alabama. Through the collective efforts of RCLF, Alabama Extension, and Balch and Bingham, this Starting a Business in Alabama video series will provide you with valuable information guiding you along the process of creating your business in Alabama. RCLF, Alabama Extension, and Balch and Bingham look forward to partnering with you in the future as you create, develop, and expand your small business. Today's video is about choosing a business entity type in Alabama. Please educate yourself on these entity types through this video in the attached table, but always seek the advice of a trusted attorney and accountant before making your final decision. In Alabama, there are 6 business entity types to choose from: corporations, limited liability companies, sole proprietorships, general partnerships, limited partnerships, and limited liability partnerships. The table shows the numerous characteristics of each business type in easy-to-understand terms. You may want to print the table and make notes on it as you view this video. First, let's consider the business entity types available for businesses owned by one individual: sole proprietorships, single-member corporations, and single-member limited liability companies. Sole proprietorships are not required to file formal registration documents with the Alabama Secretary of State's office. Therefore, there is no cost of registration. Sole proprietorships do not file annual reports with the Alabama Secretary of State's office. The simplest and easiest entity to open and close owned by one individual is by creating a sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorships may only have one owner, a sole proprietor. As the sole owner of the business, the sole proprietor owns 100% of the business. With sole proprietorships, the business and the individual who owns the business are one and the same in the eyes of the law. When it comes to taxes, sole proprietorships operate as individuals, so earnings are generally taxed as personal income of the owner. The owner is personally responsible for all debts and obligations of the business. If the business files bankruptcy or faces a lawsuit, the owner's personal assets, home, automobile, and bank account may be affected. Sole proprietorships have many positive and negative attributes. The positive attributes are that sole proprietorships are easy to open, they're easy to close, and they have minimal legal requirements. The negative attributes are that sole proprietorships have high liability risk. If the business is sued, the owner's personal assets are affected by that lawsuit. The second legal entity type in Alabama is a corporation. Corporations are required to register with the Alabama Secretary of State's office. Once the corporation has picked a name for its business, it will need to check the availability of the business name by searching on the Alabama Secretary of State's website. The corporation's name must contain the word corporation or incorporated or an abbreviation of one of these words, Inc. or Corp. If the name is available, the corporation will need to file a name reservation with the Secretary of State's office along with the corporation's certificate of formation. At the time of this recording, the fee for filing a name reservation is $28 if paid online and $25 plus credit card fees, if applicable, if paid by mail. The name reservation must be obtained prior to filing the formation documents. The fee for filing the certificate of formation is $200 plus technical fees. As of October 1st, 2024, corporations are not required to file annual reports in the state of Alabama. However, they may need to file business privilege tax returns with the Alabama Department of Revenue, which will depend on the corporation's taxable income and net worth. Corporations own stock, and the owner's title is stockholder. The division of ownership is determined by the shares of stock owned by each stockholder. A single-member corporation stockholder will own 100% of the corporation's shares of stock. A corporation is governed by its officers and its board of directors in accordance with its adopted corporate bylaws. These adopted bylaws are written into an agreement prepared by an attorney. In terms of liability, stockholders are not personally liable for the obligations of the corporation. If the corporation files bankruptcy and no illegal action has been committed, the business would close, but none of the stockholders' personal assets would be affected. When it comes to taxes, corporations can be taxed as an S corporation or a C corporation. Because of these two tax designations for corporations, corporations need to work with their accountant to determine whether to file taxes as an S corporation or a C corporation. The positive attributes of corporations are that transferring ownership is easy simply by selling and buying shares of stock. Also, it's easy to raise money for a corporation by simply selling shares of stock. A negative attribute of a corporation is that certain annual maintenance documents are required and that the corporation is governed by a board of directors and adopted bylaws. In the case of C corporations, since corporations are seen as separate legal entities, the corporation can be taxed twice, once on the corporate level and again on the individual stockholder level. The third and very popular legal entity type in Alabama is the limited liability company, commonly referred to as an LLC. LLCs do register with the Secretary of State's office. Once the LLC has picked a name for its business, it would need to check the availability of the business name by searching on the Alabama Secretary of State's website. The LLC's name must contain the words Limited Liability Company or the abbreviation L.L.C. or LLC. If the name is available, the LLC would need to file a name reservation with the Secretary of State's office along with the LLC's certificate of formation. At the time of this recording, the fees for LLCs are the same as corporations. LLCs do not file annual reports, but they may need to file business privilege tax returns with the Alabama Department of Revenue, depending on the LLC's taxable income and net worth. There can be as many owners as you'd like, and those owners are referred to as members. A single member LLC is an LLC with only one member. Ownership percentages are outlined in a limited liability company agreement, which is sometimes called an LLC agreement or an operating agreement. Alabama LLCs are required to have an LLC agreement. It is a contract written by an attorney to govern the LLC and is signed by all the members. When it comes to liability, LLC members are not personally liable for the debts and liabilities of the company. In other words, LLCs are separated from the owners of the business. If an LLC files bankruptcy and no illegal action has been committed, the company will close, but no personal assets of the owner will be affected. Now, don't get too excited. LLCs do pay taxes. There just isn't an LLC tax structure. A single member LLC is viewed as a disregarded entity for tax purposes, meaning the sole owner would pay self-employment taxes on any business profits on their personal tax return, unless the LLC files Form 8832 and elects to be treated as a corporation. LLC members need to check with their accountant to find the best tax structure for the LLCs. The flexibility that comes with LLCs make them extremely popular. RCLF and Alabama Extension work closely with Alabama small business owners to provide resources and coaching services to promote profitability and long-term success. Balch & Bingham partners with businesses throughout the state of Alabama, providing quality legal services at all stages of the business lifecycle. Whether you choose to form an LLC, corporation, or sole proprietorship, please consider partnering with RCLF, Alabama Extension, and Balch & Bingham throughout your business ownership journey. The next video will highlight business entities owned by 2 or more individuals.